Oh, this is it, everybody. March Madness, this Stock Showdown Bracket Challenge. Come together as one. We got the 2022 Stock Showdown Bracket Challenge coming at you beginning tomorrow, 9:30 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. So anyways, that's my lead in. I love this time of year. March Madness, the tournament, conference tournaments end today. Selection show begins somewhere around 6 o'clock this afternoon or this evening, where the field of 68, used to be 64, gets unveiled. But here at the Stock Showdown, we're doing 64 teams. We're talking 4 different industries, 16 teams, the 16 largest teams, companies from each one of those industries: consumer cyclical, consumer defensive, communication services, and technology. Tried to get 4 industries that have brand names that you all recognize to make this a fun, educational, engaging experience. So I encourage you all to check out the website stock-showdown.com to get more information on the purpose and the mission behind Stock Showdown. There's a multitude of different competitions that we do, but like this is the bread and butter. This is the crux of it. This was my inspiration behind creating this platform. You can find this in the About section on the website. You could also watch the video that I'm displaying here on the screen. You would go for you hit the YouTube button here, and it brings you again to the tutorial on how the bracket challenge came to be and how it all works. I've done 3 videos thus far, make this number 4, where I will break down each one of those regions of the tournament. Now, what I mean by that, the tournament, what you would want to do is you would want to go to the Stock Showdown live bracket by hitting the button here, and that's going to bring you to this bracket. And this bracket shows you all of the matchups that exist within the challenge. Now, we've already covered consumer cyclical. We've already covered communication services. We've done the same with consumer defensive. We are on to our last industry that's over to the far right, and we're talking the technology sector. And the technology sector has the 16 largest companies within technology matched up against each other. So we look at the first one. We got Apple Inc. against SAP. So I'm going to pull up each one of those companies side by side so we can do a comparison. Apple's ticker symbol is AAPL. And then you have SAP, SAP SE. And their ticker symbol, easily enough, is SAP. So they're going to be here on the right. Now, if you recall seeing what I just showed you in the brackets, you saw those names with 0% next to them. That's only because we haven't measured any percentage change on those companies. The objective here is to pick the company that you think is going to have the biggest percentage move during the following week. So this upcoming week, the barometer is where the stock closed at Friday at 4 p.m. So as you can see, side by side, you can see that Apple closed at $154.73 per share on Friday, where SAP closed at $107.68. You could see in parentheses the pullback that each one of those companies had on those respective days. So SAP was down 0.76%, where Apple was down 2.39%. Now, why was Apple down so significantly compared to SAP? Well, Apple's a technology company. Technology was down 2.18%. Apple has a beta of 1.19%, which means a little bit more volatility than the overall market as a whole, where SAP is pretty much in line with the market at 1.05. And their correlation, SAP, also to the NASDAQ at 2.18%, a little bit less volatility. It's really, really difficult to want to bet against the world's largest company, Apple. What I mean by largest, it's its market capitalization, and that can be found by taking the amount of shares outstanding and multiplying by the price per share. And when you do that, Apple comes out to $2.5 trillion company. So it's really difficult to want to, again, bet against Apple. I mean, I know there's a lot of downward momentum. Even if you were to look at like a 1-month chart on Apple, the momentum is definitely to the downside. Even a 6-month chart, you can see that momentum is heading to the downside as well. but you can see the same sort of momentum with SAP as well. So you got to go with your gut. I don't really know much about SAP, but I do know a ton about Apple, and I have plenty of products in this house that are Apple products. So I'm going to go with Apple on that one. So once you've done your due diligence or you've followed my analyses, what you'd be doing is you'd go to the Play Now button on the Stock Showdown website. That Play Now button is going to bring you to a Google form. I've emphasized this in the previous 3 episodes. So when you hit play now, you're not going to be directly brought to what you see right now on the screen. You'd be brought to the first industry. This is the last industry, which is technology. And it has each of the matchups denoted by the color, by the company's logo, the name of the company, and the seed of the company. So Apple, a number 1 seed against the number 16 seed SAP. You can see wherever you click, it's gonna highlight your selection. So I'm gonna click Apple on this one. I'm gonna go with Apple over SAP. This does autosave. So if you want to, do your research and then come back to this form, it does autosave for 30 days, I believe. So just note of that. Let's move on to the next matchup. We have number 8 Oracle versus number 9 Adobe. So again, we're going to go side by side on this one. Oracle is ORCL, Oracle on the left. And we're going to do Adobe, which is, if I'm not mistaken, ADBE. Adobe over here on the right. Oracle had a positive day, which haven't probably seen much of those on Friday, which was a positive day. The broader markets were down pretty healthy on Friday, but it's nice to see that Oracle had a positive 1.5% day, where Adobe got smashed by 5.1% on Friday. Again, you're looking at the beta number, 1.05 for Adobe. You got 0.81 on Oracle. You got a PE ratio of 29 with Oracle as opposed to Adobe. So investors are willing to pay more for Adobe's earnings than they are Oracle's earnings at 41 compared to 29. You have earnings that are not coming out, coming out in 9 days, which is going to be irrelevant because they could be gone by that point. Adobe, you have a nice dividend. Well, not nice, but let's keep it all in perspective. It's better than a bank savings account at pennies on the dollar, and you're talking about half of 1%, maybe if you're lucky. So 1.64, I'll take it. You're talking huge volume number out of Oracle on Friday at 22 million as opposed to their average at 9. So that definitely has my attention there. Yeah, there was more volume on Adobe at 4.4 compared to 3. However, you're talking almost 2.5 times the amount of volume. So I think there's some momentum with Oracle. I'm going to go with Oracle over Adobe on this one. Not a huge upset. You're talking about an 8 over a 9. So sometimes that's just a toss up. So I'm going to go with Oracle, the number 8 seed, over Adobe. On to the number 5 versus 12 matchup, and that'd be ASML Holding versus Intel. I'm not really sure what ASML, so they're simple enough, ASML on a ticker symbol, as opposed to on the right-hand side here, Intel, INTC. Let's take a look at this matchup. Sorry, I got to have a sip of coffee here. It's now 7 o'clock. We started this process, I think, at about 5:30, analyzing each of the industries. But that's what I love to do, and that's what I want to give to all of you, is this education and this analysis, so you can make these well-informed selections before tomorrow, 9:30 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. Get those picks in. All right, looking over here on the left, you have ASML Holding down 2.3. Looking over at Intel, 1.78. The relationship that Intel had with Apple, and now Apple making its own chips, I think you've definitely seen some downward momentum on Intel since that announcement happened last year. You don't talk about a ton of volume on ASML Holding. You're talking 1.1 million shares on average compared to Intel's at 38. Little light on Friday at 25 million shares. Nice little dividend there by Intel, though, 3.19%. That's healthy. Not that it's going to be relevant for the performance for the stock showdown here, but it's definitely something to note for your own financial future, is having those nice dividend-paying stocks. Light on the PE, though. Investors are not willing to pay a ton for Intel's earnings. That's why that number is only at 9.43 as compared to ASML Holding at 37. A little bit higher of a beta at 0.98. I believe that's why ASML Holding pulled back more than Intel. I don't know much about ASML Holding. I know, again, they're in the semiconductor space, as is Intel. But I'm going to go with, oh, God, this is, I don't know. This is a tough one. With all the metrics here, I'm going to go with Intel. I'm going to go on an upset. I'm going to go number 12 seed Intel, taking down ASML, holding the number 5 seed. So it's Intel moving on to the next round. Let's take a look at the next matchup. You have Taiwan Semiconductor, the number 4 seed, versus the number 13 seed AMD. I know my students are big fans of AMD Advanced Micro Devices. I don't know Taiwan Semiconductor off the top of my head. That's TSM, Taiwan Semiconductor. Obviously, AMD's is a simple one at AMD. Taiwan Semiconductor over here on the left, down almost 2.5% on Friday compared to AMD, which was down about 2% on Friday. Beta is substantially higher on AMD at 1.85. Beta is a measure of risk volatility. It's usually measured against the S&P 500's movement over a monthly basis, and you're looking at 1.85 compared to Taiwan Semiconductor at 1.02. That is definitely eye-opening. Really, because with the volatility that's persisting here in the market due to the turmoil that's happening over in Russia and the Ukraine, I'd be skeptical to want to get into AMD due to its high beta number. I mean, that's a lot of volume though that trades on AMD stock. Averages 92 million shares compared to Taiwan Semiconductor at 13. So Taiwan Semiconductor flirting more with its 52-week low at 98 is its 52-week low, and it's at 101 now. AMD a little bit further away from its 52-week low, but that beta number is just sticking out like a sore thumb to me. I'm a little concerned with such a high beta number. I'm going to play it a little bit more conservative on this one, and I'm going to go with Taiwan Semiconductor to take down AMD. That's the number 4 seed. Taking down 13. Let's move on. We have NVIDIA, another fan favorite of my students, against Qualcomm, the number 14 seed. So we have NVIDIA, NVDA on our left, and we have Qualcomm going to be on our right, and that's QCOM. Qualcomm down 2.5%. On Friday, you had, NVIDIA down 2.5%. You had Qualcomm down 1.5%. Beta is not much higher, but higher on NVIDIA than it is Qualcomm. Investors are willing to pay a lot more for NVIDIA's earnings at 57. So PE ratio is what investors are willing to pay for $1 of a company's earnings. And NVIDIA's got 57 as opposed to Qualcomm at 17. Qualcomm has a nicer dividend at 1.79 compared to NVIDIA's at 0.07%. But again, that really is not relevant for the picks in the stock showdown. Due to, again, the volatility that persists in the market right now, I'm a little concerned with NVIDIA compared to Qualcomm. I think Qualcomm's a safer play on this one. So I'm going to go with Qualcomm on an upset also of NVIDIA. So this is a 14 seed taking down the number 3 seed NVIDIA. Let's move on. We have Broadcom versus Salesforce Inc. So Broadcom, I believe, is AVGO. Yes, that's Broadcom. Going against Salesforce, which I think is CRM. Yes. Broadcom down 1.2% roughly on Friday. Salesforce down about 1% or so on Friday. You're talking its beta numbers are close, 1.02 for Broadcom, 1.1 for Salesforce. So Salesforce a little bit more volatile than the overall market and a little bit more volatile than Broadcom is. Its PE ratio, though, is substantially higher. So investors are willing to pay a pretty sizable premium for Salesforce's earnings per share at 1.48 compared to Broadcom's over there, where it's only 32. No dividend on Salesforce, but again, not really relevant for these picks. It is nice to note that Broadcom does have about a 3% dividend here. A little bit more volume on Salesforce compared to Broadcom. But given the metrics, given the volatility, I'm going to go with Broadcom over Salesforce on this one. So that is the number 6 seed Broadcom. Moving on, no upset here. Moving past Salesforce. On to Cisco Systems, the number 7 seed versus Accenture PLC. So let's take a look at Cisco Systems. I believe that would be CSCO. That's Cisco Systems. And then Accenture PLC. Not really familiar with Accenture's, and that would be ACN, ticker symbol for Accenture PLC. Cisco, as you can see on Friday, negligibly changed, almost flat, 0.04%. Accenture actually up about 2/3% on Friday. That's nice to see. We got a dividend on Cisco Systems of almost 3% compared to Accenture's at 1.25. I'm looking at some of the figures. We had nice volume on Accenture at 3.7 million shares compared to its average of 2.7. So that's important to kind of note. Looking at some of its ranges, 52-week ranges, neither one. Cisco is a little bit closer to its 52-week low than Accenture is. We do have some earnings on the horizon here for Accenture. We have earnings date, which could be a driver for the stock moving higher heading into earnings. That's definitely something to be cognizant of. March 17th, which is this coming week. So that I think is going to be a driver, to be honest with you. I think you have some people that are getting maybe in front of the earnings, perhaps looking for a good pop here. So I'm going to go with Accenture due to the earnings that they have coming out. I believe on Thursday is March 17th. So keep an eye out on that one. I'm going to go with Accenture to take down, in an upset technically, the number 10 seed taking down Cisco Systems, the number 7 seed. And our last matchup of technology and our last matchup of all the first round matchups, because this is the last industry, is Microsoft and Texas Instruments. So on our left, we have MSFT, Microsoft Corporation. And then on our right, we're going to take a look at TXN, Texas Instruments Incorporated. Microsoft down almost 2% on Friday. You're talking, this is another $2 trillion company, the second largest company in the world behind Apple. Maybe we'll see the two of them match up 1 against 2 in the regional finals. We'll have to wait and see what happens as the dust settles here. Microsoft and Texas Instruments, you're talking betas that are pretty close to each other. Yes, 0.91 and 0.93. You got PEs. You got Microsoft with a little bit of a stronger PE at 29, almost 30 compared to Texas Instruments at 20. Dividend is much nicer on Texas Instruments at 2.7 compared to Microsoft at 0.89. Volume, both companies did lesser volume on Friday than its average. Texas Instruments at 170 per share is close to its 52-week low at 161 compared to Microsoft. That's a little bit further away. 229 is its 52-week low right now, trading at 280. This is going to be a tough one, ladies and gentlemen, but kind of similar to Apple. It's going to be really hard to take and bet against. Microsoft being the second largest company in the world. So no upset alert here. I'm going to go with Microsoft over Texas Instruments. So let's recap one final time, ladies and gentlemen. My picks, Wandy's picks coming out of technology. We have the number 1 seed Apple over SAP. They're going to match up against the number 8 seed Oracle, who plays Adobe, the number 9 seed. So I have Apple matched up against Oracle in round 2. The number 12 seed Intel, I have on an upset. They'll move on to round 2, where I have them taking on Taiwan Semiconductor, the number 4 seed, who is set to, I think, take down AMD. In the matchup number 5, I have another upset. I have Qualcomm taking down NVIDIA, the number 14 over 3. Matchup number 6, so I have Qualcomm meeting Broadcom, the number 6 seed in round 2, where I have Broadcom taking down Salesforce. In matchup number 7, I have Accenture PLC on an upset, technically, the number 10 seed taking down 7 Cisco Systems. And I have Accenture taking on Microsoft, the number 2 seed in round 2. I have Microsoft taking down Texas Instruments. So when it's all said and done, if you have followed all of these videos, all of the analysis, all of the picks, you'll get to this final page, ladies and gentlemen, where you hit, and you can always go back to alter your selections if you need to. But when you are finally ready to pull that trigger and submit these picks, and again, you have to make these selections before 9:30 a.m. Eastern Standard Time tomorrow to qualify for the prizes, you are going to hit the submit button. Oh, and of course, then it's going to say, are you a robot? Mountains or hills? What looks like mountains and hills to me? This does, this does, this does. And let's verify. Hopefully this will bring us. And there it is right there. You've made your selections. If you do want to qualify for the prizes, first place is a $100 Amazon gift card. Second place is a $50 Amazon gift card. And third place is a $20 Amazon gift card. I'm going to update this form to give you the payment link that you can then pay to play. It's $20 per bracket, per submission. I really appreciate your support, your business, and I wish you all the best. This is Wandy signing off. Oh, if you need anything at all, please don't hesitate to DM me on any of the social media channels, which can be found on the website here at the bottom, whether that be Twitter, Instagram, Facebook. You can also email me at Wanderson, that's WANDERN. ERSON at stock-showdown.com if you have any questions or concerns. But again, it's been a pleasure giving my analysis of all these different industries. I wish you all the best. Good luck on those picks. And I'll see you midweek with the halftime report. All right, Wandy out. God bless.